Okay, this is not a music video, but this is a BookTube video. I just wanted to talk about some of the books I'm reading, some of the books I picked up, and I'm inspired to just do this sort of desk video, except I'm at my piano. I've been checking out Books Are Sick with Nick, one of my favorite booktubers. Also, Anna Wallace Johnson. Just want to give some shout outs to some people I've been checking out, inspiring me to read more. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, some of the books I've been reading. Jhumpa Lahiri. This is Interpreter of Maladies. There's different cover, I know, on this book. I think on the newer version, but I found this in the thrift store, and this was recommended by Anna Wallace Johnson, who says it's one of the best books she's read. I am 78 pages into a 198 page book. I'm only a few stories in, and it's like, oh, is this like one of the best writers that I've ever come across? Is Lahiri now one of my favorite authors? I've been reading a lot of fantasy over the last few years. I'm getting a PhD in religion and race in the American South, and it's really heavy stuff. And I never read fantasy until I got to grad school. And it is such a great distraction where I can just wander off and travel through these amazing worlds and just experience this wholly other stuff. Because one of my problems with literary fiction is that it tends to be a little more paced. Now that's for a lot of people, and it, in different parts of my history, has been for me, but literary fiction can feel a little slower. Now, if you want something a little slower, if you want something to marinate on, that's good. But what I love about Jhumpa Lahiri is that the writing is amazing, but it doesn't necessarily luxuriate in itself. It doesn't draw attention to itself. That reminds me of like Bob Dylan. As unique as Bob Dylan is, Bob Dylan, I think, was really about the music and wasn't necessarily trying to be like, look at me, I'm Bob Dylan. Similarly, I think Lahiri is trying to say, check out these stories. And the stories are just so utterly human. Utterly human. I highly recommend it already. I haven't even finished this book. Thinking of fantasy, The Dresden Files. Now, if you're fans of fantasy and you've read The Dresden Files, if you know, you know. If you haven't, but you're a fan of fantasy, what I love about The Dresden Files is, The Dresden Files is, if you love fantasy, but you don't necessarily want to get into a 3, 4, 5 book series where you have to keep different geographies and sometimes vocabulary and strange sounding character names all in your head. Now those books can be really fun, but if you just want a really easy read that's really fun and kind of funny, not like clownish funny, but humorous. These Dresden File books are fantastic. I'm on book 5. It's not like a typical series where the storyline just keeps going. Each book is sort of, you can read it on its own. Although it does sort of reference other books, so I don't recommend jumping in the middle. But super fun. If I'm just hanging out in the evening and I just need something, I often go with that. Fran Lebowitz. Y'all know Fran Lebowitz. I love these because they're super, super short. Look, I don't even know. I haven't read this one yet. In Hot Pursuit. 3 pages, 4 pages. Or Not CB. That is the answer. Couple pages. I can pick this up just sort of when I'm like standing at the oven, like cooking eggs, and sort of just be, really, really easy, really funny. It's not like amazing, but Fran Lebowitz is an original thinker, we'll say that much. Sally Mann. one of the best photographers on planet Earth. I saw a documentary about her a while back. I was interviewing her kids. It was at her home. Her photography is incredible. And I also I'm not a paid subscriber, but I like Austin Kleon. You know, he wrote those books, Steal Like an Artist or Show Your Works. Well, he has a Substack. And on that Substack, he does like typewriter interviews where he'll send like physical typed out with his typewriter questions to these artists. And they'll respond, although I think Sally responded digitally. And she's promoting her new book. I didn't know she was a writer. I don't really know much about Sally Mann, but I was compelled to get this book. And it's on the creative life. And I'm right now in my life, I love memoirs, but I'm more interested in like creatives who like to talk about why is it suddenly getting super bright all of a sudden? I'm interested in creatives who sort of show their work or let you into their process, because I am a musician, I am a photographer, though that's more amateurish. I'm a writer. Thing's super bright. I was recently published this last year. Yay, go me. I love books like this. For example, I have Da Vinci's, like the huge hardback of Da Vinci's notebooks. I just find it way more interesting instead of his finished work. His finished work is amazing, of course, but I love to see like how he got there. And so this book is sort of like that. I'm only a few chapters in, but thinking about somebody I look up to academically, but who writes for the general public, Jill Lepore, sort of prolific. I've been really getting into books that, like short story books or essays of books, because the time commitment for a 300, and often I read longer books, 400, 500 page book is like, okay, I got small kids, I'm in grad school, my wife is working full time and trying to build her Substack, and it's bananas around here, mostly because of the kids. So I love these. These are like 20, 25-minute reads. My favorite story so far is about a guy who started a company to freeze bodies, to freeze people after they died, because he thinks the technology is gonna catch up where we'll be able to unfreeze them and then they can keep living. He thinks that immortality is going to happen. So he's got this company. I think he's frozen 72 people. And Jill Lepore talks about that. And I think she went there and interviewed him. But then there's another story about a woman who wrote a book about living next to the sea, and she had cancer. And I'm butchering this story, but the point is there's lots of different kinds of things. It makes me wonder how she comes across this stuff and how she's able to be so prolific. I mean, I know just being in my little academic world, getting a PhD, that like the responsibilities of like teaching and research are tremendous. It's really, really challenging. And then if you have kids and a life outside of that, so she's able not only to write, a lot, but about a whole host of different things. I mean, she gets interested in a thing, she researches that thing, writes an essay, publishes it, moves on to a completely different thing. And I'm sort of in awe of that. Keeping along the recommendations from Anna Wallace Johnson, David Sedaris, Theft by Finding. Again, this is another one you can just pick up and flip through. Even David Sedaris in his introduction says it's not really meant to be read chronologically. But Sedaris is just hilarious and sort of just unbelievably like honest. It's the wit and the sarcasm and that kind of thing that we've grown to know and love about Sedaris. All right, and I'm also reading When Crack Was King. I'm doing the mostly Audible And then I'm also like reading it on the Kindle while the Audible is going. I do that while I'm on the treadmill at the gym. And that's fascinating about the crack epidemic and how racialized it became. I highly recommend that. Donovan Ramsey, crushing it. All right, here's some book pickups. Recent book pickups. Today, Born to Run came in. Hidden Tribes, Super Athletes in the Greatest Race in the World, the greatest race the world has never seen. Isolated by Mexico's deadly copper canyons, this blissful Tarahumara Indians have honed the ability to run hundreds of miles without rest or injury. Yeah, I can't wait to read this. I've been getting more into sports, reading books about sports, and while those have been like Michael Jordan and that kind of sports world, I got a book that I've picked up about the recent book about Mike Tyson, which I'll get to in a second. But this is sports related, but I think it has more to do with like how these people, how these Indians have figured out how to run without rest or injury. I would love to know some tips and tricks when I'm running. I enjoy running, but I think I'm terrible at it. So I'm looking forward to that. Similarly, about running, what I talk about when I talk about running. Again, another Anna Wallace Johnson recommendation. So I will recommend it to you. I've only ever read 1Q84 with Murakami. Loved it. Again, if you like fantasy, I highly recommend that. I was proud of myself too, because 1Q84 is a thick book. But memoir is one of my favorite genres. You know, The Glass Castle, Running with Scissors are two of my favorite memoirs. And I have more Murakami books. I have Norwegian Wood. I have The Hard-Boiled Wonderland, whatever that one's called. I think I have a few more on my Kindle, but really looking forward to this. Running. Oh, I Run the Song, I just finished. I don't know why I've been reading so many running books, but that was great, Run the Song. Maybe I'll do a review of that one. Werner Herzog. I love Werner Herzog's documentaries. And again, such a prolific creator. He's got like 70 films, including feature films and documentaries. And so when he was coming out with a book, I had to have it, The Future of Truth. It's about the future of truth. Can you tell? Okay, next. I know. I'm not going to talk about this one. Everyone talks about this one, but The Lonesome Dove, the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. One of my goals over the next year, 2 years, is to read a little bit more like Pulitzer Prize winners, Booker Prize winners, National Book Award winners, the Hugo Awards, some of the more science fiction-y fantasy awards, but like, see if I can get to understand a little bit more, like, is there a common thread with these highly touted, like, award-winning books? So everyone says this book is amazing. I mean, I'm not super stoked about the size of it, but I'm gonna give it a shot. The Master and the Margarita, Bulgakov. This was recommended to me maybe 15 years ago, and I sort of forgot about it. And then it sort of surfaced back again. I watch some of the BookTubes and the BookTalks and all that stuff. And I mean, it's one hot spring, the devil arrives in Moscow, accompanied by a retinue that includes a beautiful naked witch and an immense talking black cat with a fondness for chess and vodka. It's like, okay, I'm in. Sign me up. I know that there is some sort of an undercurrent of commentary about Soviet life. I mean, it says as much on the back, Soviet life in the 1930s, et cetera, et cetera. So there's like a political, I think, underlying thing that's happening. This is the international symbol for underlying political thing. But I also want to get into reading some more weird stuff and some more sort of like, yeah, Talk to me about a talking black cat that loves chess and vodka and like a naked witch. Great. So I read Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe, and it got me into thinking about like Irish history. My last name's McCormick. I come from somewhere over there in the Scotland, Ireland vicinity, I think. And Irish history is fascinating to me. Also, I have studied a little bit this connection between like enslaved African-American musicians and really, really poor Irish American musicians, and the overlap and the exchanging and the sort of like taking and improvising and then giving back, and the musical conversations that did occur between those people. And that's fascinating, and I think I might go down that route at some point in terms of my own research. But it made me think I want to learn a little bit more about Irish history. I want to learn a little bit more about that part of the world. So We Don't Know Ourselves by Fintan O'Toole. Everyone talks about this book as being super, super good. I can't wait to get into it. Also, because I'm a religious studies guy, this YouTube channel is not going to be like religious studies. That's not what this is. This is just like, I like talking about books. But Destiny Disrupted, this is a history of the world through Islamic eyes. I am not well-versed on Islam at all. My thing is, religion and race in the American South, which is the American South predominantly Protestant, although I study Louisiana, which is Catholic. And anyway, I want to learn more about Islam. I think it's fascinating. And there are lots of people who have read this book who have no background in religion, who just say it's a fascinating, really well-written read. And Destiny Disrupted. There you go. Back to the Irish history, Rot, and imperial history of the Irish famine. So this is a little earlier in the history. This would be about the middle of the 19th century, the Irish famine, Irish potato famine. And one of the reasons the United States had a huge influx of Irish immigrants is because they were trying to get out of that country because they were starving. It was crazy what was happening. And so I want to read about that. Now, the reviews on this haven't been like amazing, but I read academic books I'll learn a lot, but the books are sort of like just so dry or whatever. I'm assuming this is going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to tell me about that history, which is what I want to learn about. Also, like, are y'all like, I think I'm overly paying attention to Amazon reviews. By the way, I try not to buy all of my books on Amazon. I like to buy local. I want local bookshops, new and used, to be around. I know Amazon's a direct competitor, and the Amazon prices are so cheap because they take a loss on these books. So buy local if you can. But I am paying attention a lot. I'm like, this book only got 4.1. I don't know if I want to read it. And I'm realizing that it's like, I don't think that's very good. I don't want to spend tons of time reading the reviews, but one of my goals is going to be like reading at the 4.0 or lower mark if it comes from a person that I respect and who liked the book. I'm just going to sort of branch out of the like, everything needs to be 4.5 or higher, because I think that's ridiculous. All right. The Baddest Man, The Making of Mike Tyson. I'm really, really looking forward to this. Now, my father and I are toying with the idea of starting a sports podcast, but like a sports podcast where it's like a book sports podcast where we read like a sports book and then we talk about it. We do trivia and we make it fun. I think that would be cool. There's a lot of sports podcasts, but not ones that are sort of built around books. I think that could be cool. In any case, I was born in 1981. I remember when Mike Tyson was like the thing on planet Earth, coming in late 80s into the early 90s, and he was basically unbeatable. Not to mention the fact that since then, his life has been, he's a fascinating dude, for sure. So I'm really looking forward to this. I heard an interview with Mark Kriegel on the Pressbox podcast, which is part of the Ringer podcast network, which I listen to some of their podcasts. Yeah, this is a long video. Thanks for hanging with me. So those are some of the books I picked up. Those are some of the books I'm reading. Thanks for stopping by. Ooh, my wife's coming in. You want to say hi to the people? No? My wife doesn't want to say hi to the people. Okay.
Are there people there?
Okay, bye. No, nobody's here.